Coming up, Part 1 with Gayle Rogers.
Here's a great question to ask before you do anything. Am I making the internet a better place?
The answer to that should always be yes.
Right. Having vulnerable conversations and trying to provide value to people is always, it's up to you.
People don't know what people don't know. That sounds repetitive and weird, but it's unreal, especially in the workforce, like just how many regular people don't know the regular intervals to change their oil on their car. Number one, stop using all your big words, stop using all your fancy terms, break it down, make it simple. That's where we have an opportunity as humans.
A long, long time ago, when vehicles were just becoming a thing, they needed people to drive cars. Because if you're not driving your car, you're not wearing out your tires. So the Michelin Guide was designed to get people to go longer distances than their horse would take them, so that they would experience things using a car and wear their tires out and buy more tires.
That's nuts.
And now what we have is a great company like Michelin and the Michelin Guide that still exists.
It's been so long, but yet not long at all. Welcome back to another episode of the I'm a Car Chick podcast. It's Shasta. I hope you know that by now. But if you're new here, hi, my name is Shasta Haddock, and I'm the host here. This week's episode has so many weeks in the making that last week, this gentleman and I had a conversation, and we were actually supposed to podcast last week. And I was like, hold on, I don't know much about you. Tell me everything about you. And then we ended up talking for like an hour and a half. Because the conversation was that good. The information he's bringing is that good. So if you're listening to this, I want you to take notes. I want you to be very attentive to this, because this is actually going to be a very jam-packed episode with takeaways that you can implement today. Whether you're in the dealership, in the vendor space, this information is for you. So without further ado, please help me introduce Gayle Rogers of the Automotive Agency. Hi, Gayle.
Hello, how are you doing?
I'm so good. How are you?
Fantastic.
I just, that conversation we had last week just had me sitting there coming up with ideas and all of the things. And I remember even kind of going brain dead in the middle of the conversation, because I was trying to think of all the ways to implement the things that we were talking about. And so I am genuinely just hoping that the audience gets that out of this too. But would you do me a favor and do a quick little intro about, kind of where you got your start within automotive, what led you to what you do now?
Okay. Short version of that. By referral, my first job in automotive was in 2000, working for J. Walter Thompson in Detroit. I had no idea what I was getting into, but when I look back at it now, it was this really great position. I went to the University of Alabama, and I grew up in Texas, and so I'd never even been to Michigan other than for this interview. And so I got the job, and there were four of us. There's four coordinators, and we our job is really like Johnny Step and Fetch or Jill Step and Fetch, however you want to do that. I mean, it'd be like if somebody said, "Go get, I need you to go pick up my laundry." Like that's what we did.
Yeah.
But it was like this really great experience, and it was this cool training ground for to sort of understand how the business works. Now this, where I was really like tier 2. So that was my entry into it. And it was with the Ford FDAFs.
Nice.
And it was a really, really cool experience. And, at the time I remember I was like, I was making $28,000 a year. I was so pumped to get an $800 paycheck. And, and it was just like, I had a blast. Like I was, had a friend, a really good friend that I lived with. And we just had a really good time. And so then, fast forward, I've worked for, SET, Southeast Toyota's tier 2 agency. I worked at a dealership in North Carolina. I worked for a tier 3 agency in Birmingham, Alabama. actually 2 of those. And in February of 2020, I started my own agency.
It's so much experience, and not just like in one direct place. Like you've got the dealership experience, you've got the agency experience, you've got the different tiers of experience. Like you're bringing a lot to the table. So I feel like you're very qualified to say that you are an expert at this point in this thing that we're doing in the car business.
I think everybody probably suffers from a little bit of imposter syndrome at some point, right?
Yeah.
I think there's a balance in that too, that, I can't remember who said this, but once you believe something, you stop thinking about it. And if I believe that I'm an expert, then that means that I've, stopped thinking of how to become an expert. Mm-hmm. So yeah, I probably have a lot more experience than most because of the time frame and all the things that we got to see change and sort of the path I took. But yeah, I still am now. I'm like, man, I'm so far behind everybody else.
Isn't it weird how that happens? Like you spend your whole life immersed in this stuff, and you're like, oh, I've got this down pat, and then it's like.
This episode is brought to you by Epic BDC, your #1 outsourced BDC solution. Learn more about Epic BDC by checking out the link in the bio.
I think we could really put the beginning of it somewhere around COVID or the tail end of COVID, when everything just started rapidly changing and we were making a decade's worth of progress in a couple of months, and like everything's changing. You wake up and you're like, oh my God, I need to relearn everything because I now suddenly don't know my job, or my job has now changed drastically. And so it's kind of like, I think we see a lot of turnover in the industry because of that. Like people are just dumbfounded as to how to keep up with something that they're an expert in. And it's like, it's almost one of those things, like I say all the time, like college is irrelevant for the car business for the most part, unless you're just going for the basics of business management or, getting your business degree, because things, by the time you would enter in and graduate college, everything would be different. Like
right now, it definitely feels that way. Yeah. I always like this argument for people, which is, if you have a choice between taking the same amount of money you would invest in college and you invested in buying a business, knowing that after 4 or 5 years you had to sell that business, which one is a better investment, right? Of your time, and what would you learn and all those pieces. Now, you miss out on the college experience and all those other like fun aspects of it. But and how expensive that it's getting is,
seriously,
I was talking to a friend about what University of Alabama costs out of state now. And I'm like, that's a multiplier of what it cost us. It's like 10 times more. And it's not quite that much, but it's real close. And the education hasn't gotten 10 times better.
Like where do they think this money is coming from to pay for this? Like, honestly.
I don't know. It's out of control. So, but yeah, the value of what you're going to get out of it at the end is exponential in terms of like what work is. And I certainly felt that way when I saw some people going back for like their MBA, in marketing or something along those lines. And I'm like, you're going to be in school for 2 years, and what I'm going to learn in 2 years is going to actually make me more money than what you're going to do in school. Now, I don't want to like poo-poo school and say, don't be a lifelong learner. Right. I don't think that's the case, but I just think it's to your point. And we also see this too. You were talking, about how fast people are figuring things out. Unfortunately, our news feeds are like this 15-year-old kid that created $1 million business using only AI, which everyone believes actually happened, whether or not it did or didn't. Mm-hmm. So, there's that.
Everyone's telling us that that AI is the future, and if you don't get on board, you're going to be left behind, and so all of the things. But you're doing some really good work with AI. Like you jumped in pretty quickly, and you're like, I'm going to find a solution that the industry needs. But you're also incorporating other things into it, so it's not fully automated.
That's right.
Tell me.
Yeah, so I'll kind of tell you how we got there, because it wasn't intentional. So we were solving a problem for a client in the real estate industry. Big in terms of the state of Alabama, not necessarily big in terms of national. And we were looking at, how they were ranking versus how they were ranking against like Remax and Redfin and some of these other big companies. And we sat down and we talked about the idea of like, look, you're in, position 5 to 10 for most of these searches. The problem is like you don't have enough money to outspend Remax. But what is it that you can do that they can't do? And that was be more local. Like they can't outlocal you. So let's go and figure out like how to write really local content, and let's go and interview local experts in the real estate universe, and let's use those not only to potentially get local links, to get citations, to like get some conversation going, but then you're like creating potentially a relationship with this person. So now you have an extra database element to work with it too. So it was these upsides to doing all that. And this was around the time when ChatGPT started to launch. And when we got everything kind of pulled in, we realized there's a lot more to this that we can do when you say, all right, I've got all this expertise from this person, and I've had a conversation with this person, and it's just authentic, and there's empathy in it, and there's experience in it, and there's a lot more to it than what we were doing previously. What we were doing is writing blog posts using a writer that's never met the client before in their lives, may not even know anything about the industry. And what the blog post writer started doing is using ChatGPT to spit all that out. And it was wrong. And we were having, like, it was really identifiable. There were just a lot of issues with it. And so we looked at it and said, well, what if we took the transcript and fed the transcript into AI, and what could we get out of that then? And that was the beginning of this aha moment of like, holy shit, we can do, so many things we can do. Like, it's just limited by your imagination of like.
Did you know that there's a monthly newsletter where you can keep in touch with everything the I'm a Car Chick podcast is up to? There is. Check out the show notes below, and you can also follow us on all social media and stay in tune with whatever we're up to.
What data points you could start putting together and what you could start to derive from that.
Yeah.
And so that was kind of the beginning of our AI journey, was that sort of aha moment.
Well, and the conversation that you and I had offline the other day, which I am still kicking myself for not recording, but the past, can't change it. But part of that conversation was how that relates to dealerships. And so, we talk a lot about dealerships needing to go back to marketing again, but not just marketing, that local hometown marketing and being a part of your community, which, I mean, our agency's been saying for over 10 years, like, you've got to be a part of your community, and then you've got to be showing your community that you're a part of your community. So not just being out there doing the thing in private, but doing it and then showing it to other people. This is a perfect example of this. We have a dealership that we worked with locally that once a month would go to the local homeless shelter and make breakfast for them. And they would always kind of just do it in private. Like, obviously the people at the shelter would know, but they wouldn't post it. And they're like, we don't, like, why would we celebrate that we're doing this? And it's like, it's not for you. It's not for you to show off or say, hey, look how great of people we are. It's to inspire others to go out there and do the same thing.
Yeah. So I think for some people it feels, and that's maybe the same thing that we sort of touched on in the beginning about, am I really an expert in this? Mm-hmm. It feels very much like you're like draping yourself in a hero's cape when you're like, look at all the good we're doing everywhere. Mm-hmm. And I understand that. And I can and I think sometimes it can come off that way to a degree. And I think it's just about how you do it.
Yeah.
And there's certainly some ways to approach that. But ultimately, I think what automotive dealers kind of have to think about sometimes is that they're not just a place to buy and sell a car or a place to service a vehicle. Like, they're a really key part of the community. And if they think about it the right way, their job isn't to sell a car, but it's to help people get to and from the things that are important in their lives.
Yeah.
Right? Like, we're not just selling 4 wheels and a hunk of metal. We're selling status. We're selling identity. We're selling we're selling safety. We're selling, security. We're selling a lot of things that are beyond that whole deal. And sometimes we're like, it's a manufacturer's job. But I think there's like so much more that we can do in terms of, how we tie ourselves into the fabric of the community and use our relationships in a positive way. So maybe instead of saying, look at what we did for the homeless shelter or for the animal shelter, it's like, why don't we talk to the people that are like there day to day and maybe promote their stories and talk about the things that they're doing. And in that way, you're still getting it across without saying, look at me and all the good that I did.
Right.
And that kind of goes back to like, I think one of the most human things that we can do is have a conversation.
True.
And you kind of mentioned like how we're layering AI and, human intervention in there.
Yeah.
What we found, and this is trial and error, if you just say, go AI, like you're going to get a lot of things you're not going to like.
Right.
You're going to get, some number one, identifiers that we see that are like, oh, we know AI wrote this.
Mm-hmm.
Number two is you're either going to get too much consistency or too much inconsistency.
Right.
Because it'll drift or it'll just do the same thing over and over again. And additionally, it gets kind of lazy. It's sort of like, a 5-year-old kid that you're putting in charge of all of your work. So you can't just let it run on its own. But if you give it really, really thoughtful content and you give it some guardrails, then it can make some things, it can make some magical stuff happen, and it can do it at scale. And where I think we're headed in terms of marketing, if I'm going to make the bold prediction, thing is that as humans, we want more human interaction. We want more face to face. We need it. Like we have to have that for our own like well-being. But what we can do now with AI is that we can produce really, really, really good content at scale and distribute it almost everywhere in such a condensed amount of time. Like something that used to maybe take us months to do, we can get done in days or weeks.
Yeah. Well, and I think about it too. So, you said that we want more of that face-to-face interaction, but the weird thing is like we want it, but we're not willing to leave our house to go get it. So like we want it delivered to us via social media or via our inbox or whatever, but we may not necessarily want to talk to someone. We just want to know, number one, that you're real, and number one, that you know your stuff. Number two, that you know your stuff. Like that's when I think about like when I'm testing out a new product or, checking to see if I want to work with a new company or something along those lines, like I'm heavy into checking reviews. I'm heavy into checking online presence, all of that stuff. But if someone from the company reaches out to me, I'm not going to talk to you because I don't want to hear what you have to say about your company. I want to hear what others have to say about it. And I want to know if you really know your stuff. So all of those things, like how active are you showing your community who you are and all of those things. And so I think that that's like, it's a huge piece of it. And it's not to say you need a full production team to do marketing or to do your videos or anything like that. Like that's where the AI comes in to automate and speed things up. But it has to be someone human's face. Like, and granted, AI is getting better about AI generated video. Like it's getting scary. I mean, the introduction of Sora and all of the different tools that you can use to recreate. I mean, it's definitely getting scary out there. I mean, but I think we're almost at that point where we can all tell, okay, this is real versus this is AI.
Yeah. There's some things I've seen that you wouldn't know unless somebody told you like, this is how I did this. But yeah, I do. I think once people realize something's AI, then they kind of go, okay, and they can move on. Like unless it's entertainment.
Yeah.
But if you're trying to like get people's attention and convey authority, here's a great question to ask before you do anything.
This episode is brought to you by SCP Agency, your one-stop shop for organic social media. Check them out by clicking the link in the show notes or visit scpagency.com.
Am I making the internet a better place?
The answer to that should always be yes.
Right. And is producing AI-based stuff making it a better place? And I think that answer is sometimes. It depends on sort of what you're doing and how you're doing it and how you're approaching it. But I do think that having, having vulnerable conversations and trying to provide value to people. Like how you decide to do that is always, it's up to you, right?
Yeah.
I mean, if you think you can deliver a lot of value with an AI avatar, then great. Like do it as long as it's, something there. But if you're just doing it to like get attention or get views or get likes because you want to monetize a channel, well then I think we're going to start to see that, see people start to identify that really quickly. And you're seeing in some channels where it's sort of self-detecting, or it's like user detecting, like people have said this is AI, it's got like a little note under it, which I think is going to happen more and more too. So yeah, it is very much a Wild West situation right now.
Yeah. Well, and we talked about last week, like a lot of people run out of steam to make videos because of what I call is the assumption that everybody knows everything. So we talked a lot about like the basic education of not just car buying, but car ownership. You mentioned first time buyers and, why should a first time buyer buy XYZ vehicle? Things like this, like people don't know what people don't know. And that sounds repetitive and weird, but it's unreal realizing, like, especially in the workforce, like just how many regular people don't know the regular intervals to change their oil on their car or when they should get their tires rotated. Like all of these things that because we've been so immersed in it for so long that we just take as, oh, everybody knows this. Like, no, not everybody does know this. And so getting back to the basics of stop just talking in big acronyms like APR, financing, leasing, like break it down. The average consumer digests content at the highest level whenever it's broken down at a 6th grade reading level, which means number one, stop using all your big words, stop using all your fancy terms, break it down, make it simple. That way their brain isn't having to work as hard to comprehend and digest it. Like, and that's where we have an opportunity as humans.
100%. So you hit on like 3 things, and one of them earlier, and I didn't answer it. The first thing was about like how easy it is to create content now. Like the camera on your phone is amazing. You can do with that and a subscription, you could do so much content on your own that it's like that. The only thing that's holding you back is just turning it on. So there's no reason why anybody couldn't do it. And that's why like so many podcasts, like the cost to start a podcast is nothing, right? It's not enough out there. And that's why so many podcasts start and then stop, to your point, is because they run out of ideas or there's no accountability or they lose steam or whatever else. And so I think a big piece of like having an accountability partner or someone that's going to help you like stay on strategy and keep you motivated and keep those things going, I think that's really important. 2, and then kind of the third point that you hit in there, which is when you're real close to something, you think everybody knows these things, or you're even afraid sometimes to say, I don't know what that means. Like, I've got to go look that up. I saw something the other day and I've seen it 100 times and I forget it all the time. It's the little acronym that's TLDR, like too long didn't read. But I had to look that up again because I was like, what the hell does that even mean? And so it's not even things that we may have known at one point, because our brain can only hold so much.
Right.
And I do think that like being someone who is generous with, generous with empathy, I guess, is a way to like have an understanding that like there might be 100 people that know what it is that you're talking about, when you say APR and whatever else, but there's probably another 1,000. I think you said in our last conversation, somebody turns 18 every day. So there's all these people that don't know what any of that stuff means, or they don't understand the implications of it, or they weren't raised that way so even talking about the same thing over and over again, like there's a market for it. And making yourself accessible is really, really good. It's really important.
Well, and it's funny. I was talking to my husband. So my husband and I just bought a 2008 Jetta as like a little, we can rack the miles up on this kind of car. Gas is cheap in it, like just for, running around and stuff. And Our normal car is a 2024 Kia Sorento, fully loaded. So it's got all the technology in it, all that. Going back in time to a 2008 vehicle, and it's like a base level Jetta, is like mind blowing. And I think about like, we trade cars every couple of years. So like technology doesn't change too much between, those models. But it got me thinking about someone who trades their vehicle like once every 10 years and how much technology changes from a 2015 to a 2025 or anything like that, or even if they've waited longer. Like,
You've made it this far, and I have to say thank you so much for listening. Please be sure to rate the show, whether you're listening on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, subscribe on YouTube, and of course on all social media channels. Light it up.
15 years, a 2010 to 2025. I mean, I've got 17 years of difference between my two cars, but like, I could not imagine trying to go straight from that Jetta to the Sorento. Like, I drove the Jetta for a week straight and then just drove the Sorento again today. And I'm like, everything feels weird. Why is it so easy to shift? And why is the gas pedal so easy going? Like, I mean, things like that. And then the technology of having the screen and Apple CarPlay, like things that we've progressed with that, again, the general public hasn't. And so I remember when we bought this vehicle, we had traded in a 22 Kia K5 and a 23 Kia Sportage. We went 2-to-1. And when we did that, even the technology change between a 23 and a 24 was drastic. And I'm like, there's stuff in here I don't understand. There's different ways of getting in the car, like how you hold the handle and it automatically unlocks. Like, it's mind blowing and things like that. Like, everything in our world is content. Like, everything. What happens when your key fob battery dies, or what is this Uconnect button, or what is this OnStar button? Like, what happens if I hit that? I've always wanted to know all of these things, right?
Yeah. And even if I wanted to take that a step further, one of the things that we do a bad job of in automotive is we think about marketing horizontally, in the sense of like SEO as this horizontal, tactic or strategy, or even social that way. And you really need to start thinking about it vertically in the sense of who your persona is, because now that conversation about oil changes is different if you're talking to farmers or if you're talking to your, just daily driver. Mm-hmm. It's a different conversation for different reasons, different ways. Things like, we're thinking about key fobs. Like, if you're in a industry where you're out on sites a lot and you're working, or you break them, you lose them, or whatever else, and it's this pain to get them, redone. Maybe the conversation about why you should or shouldn't buy an aftermarket one from Amazon, what the problems are with that, or if you are going to buy one, this is the one to buy. And that technology changes in real time too. So it's not, there's outside forces that are also updating that conversation, every single day too. And it's the amount of ideas you could come up with are literally unlimited.
Oh, seriously. Like, and I mean, and it doesn't even have to all be specifically about buying or owning a car, which, number one, all of us do. So, I mean, there's plenty of content there, but even just financing or credit, like, establish yourself as the expert in all things finance, like small things that can help improve your credit today, or easy ways to save up $1,000 for a down payment, like things like that people don't even think about.
If you start thinking about like how to repair your credit, or how to build your credit, or any of those things, like just being someone who sees value in the community. There's do you know the story behind the Michelin Guide? Mm-mm. Okay. So the Michelin Guide is like the 3-star restaurant guide. All right.
Right.
So that was invented by one of the Michelin tire brothers. When they started their company back it was a long, long time ago, when vehicles were just becoming a thing, they needed people to drive cars. Because if you're not driving your car, you're not wearing out your tires. So the Michelin Guide was designed to get people to go longer distances than their horse would take them, so that they would experience things using a car and wear their tires out and buy more tires.
What? That's nuts.
It's awesome. So that's like a true, that's in practice, this idea that we're talking about is like, how can you serve your community, but also then, laterally serve yourself? And now what we have is a great company like Michelin and the Michelin Guide that still exists. I mean, whatever, probably close to 100 years from when they started it.
I always knew the name was Michelin, but I never tied it in that Michelin was the same as the tire company. That's mind blowing. Like, and I just watched with my kids Ratatouille not too long ago, and
It's a great
a lot of that about Gusteau's stars and how he lost his 5th star and all of that stuff. And so it's wild, but I love that comparison. That's spot on. We've talked a lot about the why and the what, and I want to now break it into details so that the audience has some takeaways for the how. But guys, you're going to have to wait for the next episode. Gayle and I are going to keep recording, but I'm going to wait for a week to release part 2. So catch us next week.
Stay tuned for part 2.
I think what we do, 1 long form video, 5 short forms, that's 6, say 2 blog posts, that's 8, 2 carousel posts, that's 10, 3 to 5 quotes, let's say that's 13. Taking 10 minutes of your time to record a video, you can pull 13 assets out of that. So it's almost like it's just based on what your creativity or imagination will keep you from doing. There's no other way to get from 0, they don't know who you are and they don't care, to I know this person, which makes me even maybe like them a little bit and potentially trust them. There's no way to get there any faster than using video and AI together to create attention and frequency. If you're also trying to think of some ideas of what to do for content, I think a couple of really good things are look up some statistics in your industry. And I think that would be the one thing I tell people, to walk away from this is like, be thinking about your marketing is not talking at a standing army. I suggest that everyone just go post on everything and see what works and doesn't work. I think you'll be surprised at how well, to your point, Facebook still gets a lot of activity.
That post, and it didn't start until like yesterday. Yesterday it was like around 20,000 views. I'm at 59,000 views.